Hi, I'm here with Kiva Leatherman of the Wise Women Network. And if you're new here, I'm Gervais Colmos, the founder of Shiny Happy Human. And I'm on a mission to help women reclaim their identities as women and show them that they really can have it all and what a gift to give to their children, the next generation. And I met Kiva on a boss school mentor call. She gave me some mentoring around money mindset. So I immediately was like, this woman is a wizard. I need to know her more. She's a genius. So Sarah Davidson connected us, and I asked her to talk today about her journey as an entrepreneur and a mother, because I think we share a lot of similar core values about motherhood and how it can shape your life in a different way than what culture tells us, right? And so it's kind of this radical viewpoint that we both happen to share, and I really just want to bring it to other mothers in my network. So thank you for being on the call today. And would you kindly introduce yourself to the women? Tell them a little bit about your genius, because I just don't even know the right way to.
I don't either, I don't know what I do. It's interesting, right? I started on this path about 6 years ago of finding my footing as an entrepreneur, and the reason that I was so determined and hell bent to figure this out is because of my children. I really felt that I wanted to be present for them, be involved in their lives, and yet figure out a way to do that without self-sacrifice and without compromising my own intellectual capacity and my creative desire and my, really my own ambition. And for me, I really believe that entrepreneurship is the path because it's the only way that we have dominion over our own lives, where we decide how often, how much, how do I take summers off? How do I pick my kids up from school most days? And yet still honor all of the gifts that, God or the universe or whatever your belief system is. We were all endowed with these gifts and these talents and these desires to do good work in the world. And Gervais, I know, we'll just cut to the chase. I don't believe that mothering in and of itself is it. We'll talk, we can talk a lot more about that. It sometimes gets tomatoes thrown at me, but I think anytime that we're making a choice to give over the impact of our life or the success of our life or the joy of our life to another human, whether or not it's our kid, that's a risky thing. We'll talk about that, but that's definitely been my path this last 6 years, is finding my footing as an entrepreneur. I work a lot in the internet marketing and online coaching space because it lets me do it from here, from my house, and really anywhere in the world. And it's been pretty awesome. And it's been amazing to have my kids have a front row seat to that.
How old are
they? Are now 11 and 9. Yeah. So, and I've been at this since they were 2 and 3. So it really has been the context of their entire, growing up.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started? I know you said you decided entrepreneurship was the only way.
Yeah.
But what specifically led you, or how has that kind of manifested throughout the years? That part of your journey leading up to today.
So I started before I had kids. My career was, I worked in the investment industry. I was a vice president, super successful. I grew up with a mom who's a New York newspaper editor. So I was definitely raised to have ambition and be successful and make my mark on the world. But the thing was that after I had my kids, I just couldn't stand to leave them. I felt like when I left them at daycare, ultimately we ended up getting a nanny. I was so jealous of her. And when I left them, I felt like I was leaving my left arm. And I just started to get very bitter and cynical and not do well in my job. And ultimately, it's pretty hard to quit a job that pays that well.
Mhm.
So for me, I manifested getting fired.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like totally got canned. And I remember sitting in the parking lot afterward, like, I mean, it was like your box of stuff, like total typical thing. And
Wonderful.
I was like, all right, so, I'm done. I've had my career. I'm going to go home. I'm going to fire the nanny. And, I'm just going to be a mom. I'm going to be with my kids. And that was in 2008, probably. Um, and so I spent the summer with them and, went through all the navigating my relationship turned on its head because that wasn't, who my husband married and all these things. And ultimately just fought really to be able to stay with them. And that was great, for about 6 months. It was novel, and I loved being able to take a bath at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I got super addicted to Grey's Anatomy and started watching all of them. Like, I would record them and watch them while the kids napped. And, like, this was my life. I taught myself to crochet. I
Oh,
became
wow.
an aerobics instructor. So I like to joke that I went from multiple six figures to $12 an hour twice a week.
Oh my god.
And
You were like, I am crushing this
you're
mother.
like, dude, I got the mom thing down. And yeah, and so and what I know now is that inside I was just like trying to find what is this new world? Who am I in this context? And I get a little catty because I am from New York. So I would go to like the mommy playthings and I was like, oh my God, poke me in the eyes if I have to have another freaking conversation about diapers. Like, really? This is what we've devolved into? And so I was kind of getting bitter and just feeling more and more depressed. And so I was actually watching Barack Obama's inauguration address, his first one. And I taught myself to crochet, so I'm crocheting, and the kids are playing on the floor in front of me. And he said something akin to, it is the moral obligation of every man and woman to use their intellectual and creative capacity to create change in the world. And it hit me like a ton of bricks that me sitting on the couch with a master's degree, watching my two little kids, having taught myself to crochet and teaching aerobics was not that.
Yeah.
And that, we can have all the discussions that we want about mothering and parenting, but for me, I realized that it was a cop-out. Mm-hmm. And so I just, in that moment, was like, I have all this information about money and finance and business, and, why don't I just start teaching women about these things? Because, all through the years, like, friends' moms would get divorced or become widowed, and they would have no freaking clue where their money was or how to manage it, or, people like just living check to check. And so I started my first business teaching workshops here locally to women to teach them about money, and it all grew from there. And what I've loved about it is just how it's been such a transformative tool for me and my husband. Like, we've really had to dig deep and, get into our shit and look at our money stories and look at our beliefs about what it is to be parents and what it is to sell and to involve the kids in these conversations around, my son's so cute now. He'd be like, so mom, what are you launching next quarter? And what are, it's hilarious.
That's so cute.
It's been awesome. Yeah.
I love what you said about how, like, that wasn't it for you.
Right.
Like, like, there's such a greater discussion happening about, like, the role of women in the workplace and working moms and stay-at-home moms, and I work with both, and I can empathize with both, but I think the key that I always
thing.
it's like, but the thing is it's like deciding what, and I always call it like having it all, right? Mm-hmm. Like being fully expressed, like being your best self. What does that mean for you?
That's right.
And I kind of felt the same way. Like when I went back to work, it was like really pretty much paralleled your story very similarly. And, I went first. Too? Yeah, well, except I quit a perfectly good job. And, but it was the same, like feeling resentful of the like daycare and then the nanny and then whoever, because I switched that situation so many times.
Right.
And then, and feeling like this isn't it. Okay. So, exploring that and being like, I have so much respect for women who do work in corporate or wherever,
Yeah.
and there's so many reasons to do so. But for me, I just knew that was a cop out.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't it for me, and it was basically killing me inside.
Yeah.
Um,
Soul crushing. When
Soul
you're living
crushing.
the life that you don't want to be living, it is a slow and painful death of your soul.
Yeah, that's exactly what I say. I
Yeah.
say my soul is getting sucked out my balls.
Yeah.
And I think part of that was because I knew I was playing it safe.
Mm,
And my mother was an entrepreneur. She's an opera singer, and
wow.
I never thought about the impact that had on me. But I think the big thing that I started to realize is like I'm just doing this job right now because it's easy,
Yeah.
because it pays the bills. But I was like, how else could I pay the bills? I was like, I could waitress at night and spend the day with my kid, which is apparently what right now I think I want, and be so much happier. So like, why am I just doing this? Because is it because I don't want to be embarrassed to like
I
quit my
know.
job and be a waitress, or what else is possible, right?
Yeah.
But like at that point I was
Mm,
so miserable that like where I am now was I didn't have the space and the energy to even imagine it. Um anyway, back to the idea that having it all, I think to every woman looks different. And for you saying like being on the couch crocheting, you were like, no, this is a cop out too.
yeah, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. It's interesting, right? Like I think, there's a time, right? Children are small, and we want to be with them and cultivate their values and get to enjoy that experience.
Mhm.
And what I can say is now, my kids are older, and I run with a group of women whose kids are even older, right? Because, you just get into sports and all these things. And, my heart hurts a little bit for the women who haven't found their way out of the mothering bubble. Like I think there's a time when kids are small when it feels really good and it feels all encompassing, and yeah, they need us in every moment, right? Like they can't flush the toilet and do
Yeah.
other things and make their own food, but I was actually coaching a woman who's getting divorced from a very wealthy man, and we're really helping her find this new normal. And it's actually like it hurts my soul because she at 50 something years old with 18 and 15-year-old children still believes that they need her to come make the bed, and they don't want her to. And it's why she's getting divorced, and it's why all these things have happened. And so while yes, I do believe that every woman has a choice, from my vantage point, from my perspective of, being a coach and working with women with their money and their businesses over the last 6 years, do feel that it's a dangerous proposition to not at some point find something that's just for you. Whether it's volunteering or being an entrepreneur just at a, very consistent level. Like we don't all need to be bazillionaire, crazy entrepreneurs, right? Like just something that allows you to divest your passions to some other avenue in the world other than your children and your husband is a very healthy thing to do. And the other piece of it is that it puts a hell of a lot of pressure on our kids if they are our be all end all, right? Like if their only role in life is to prove that we were the most amazing mother in the world, it's not fair to them. And my sense of it is that children who are put in that construct rebel and run away and want nothing to do with that contract. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. My
Yeah.
dad always says to me, he's a bit of a rebel for himself. But when I got pregnant with my daughter, he said, just remember, your kids owe you nothing. They did not ask to be born.
That's right.
Like, you decided to have a child.
Yeah. Ooh,
And
that gave me chills.
yeah, except at the time I was like, all right.
Whatever, Dad.
Can't just say congratulations or something.
Yeah.
But
Thanks.
it's been percolating for a long time. And
Mm.
I try to think about it, when I look at my daughter, I'm like, she doesn't owe me anything. Like, she doesn't have to prove that she's a good person or a good human being. I
Get the
wrote this letter to
accolades.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
I wrote like a letter to her recently that just like poured out of me, and it was like, you you making me a mom was enough.
Mm.
Like that alone was such a
Mm.
transformative
Yeah.
experience in my life. It totally changed the trajectory of my entire life. I mean,
Mm.
from the entrepreneur to the self care to the self love to the personal growth. I mean, all of it changed because she made me a mother. And I try to remember that, because I think from what I've seen from my own parents and, just in society in general, there is that need to prove,
Mm.
like, you have to prove that you're a good kid to your parents by, like, I don't know, all of these ways
Achieving
that you just
a
have to
lot of it.
externally validate
Yeah, I mean,
somebody
I think
else's
that
worth.
we very much live in an achievement culture
Mhm.
where, a lot of the ways that women are given validation is through the achievements of their children.
Mhm.
So that's why we see the mass push into sports or academics or, little Johnny needs to be at the
Wait,
top of.
there you go.
Are you hearing me again?
Yeah.
So, it's beautiful fodder for personal growth because
Mhm.
when you come into, understanding that really the only job that we have in life is to navigate our own consciousness and our own experience and our own emotional maturity. And we can start to notice, oh, I actually did this recently. I noticed that I was trying to get my daughter to like show off, in front of a group of other women, like, oh, Charlotte, will you do your cute thing that you do? And I caught myself and I was like, interesting. Like,
Mhm.
why in this group of women was I, manipulating my child to
Mhm.
perform?
Mhm.
What was that about me? What was feeling insecure? What was needing validation? What was not feeling like it fit in? And so it's so cool, right? Like I could be like, "Oh, I'm a horrible mother," or I could be
Right.
like, "Oh, interesting. Like what was that? What was it about that group of women that made me feel like I had to, put my daughter up to tap dance?" And so it's cool, right? Like there's just a lot of beauty in it. A lot of
Yeah.
beauty and healing and navigating your own stuff.
So then, so the women you work with, or just even friends of yours that you say, they dimmed their light a little bit when they
Mhm.
became mothers. They went into that motherhood bubble with the best of intentions,
Mhm.
maybe feeling like you and I did at first, like, I just want to be with my kid. And then they didn't quite know how to get out of it when they realized that maybe that wasn't quite it.
Mhm.
What do you encourage them to do? Like, is it self care? Is that what you would call like the volunteering and the
A
seeking
bit.
outside
I mean,
yourself?
I think, for me, one of my core beliefs is that every human is born with the divine right to be happy and joyful and fully expressed and fully heard. That every woman has the right to feel her feelings fully, to be angry, to be sad, to be hysterical, to be emotional, to be erratic, and all of the things that we are as women. And so, for me, when I start working with a woman who's in that place, we want to find the joy meter, right? Like, what are the things that bring joy back into your life, that bring sensuality back? That, what I know is that a lot of us, when we become mothers, shut down our sexuality, because we're suddenly buying into this construct that we're a mother. And so, therefore, we're not supposed to have pleasure sexually, and that of course shuts down creativity and abundance and flow and receiving and marriages. And a lot of problems come when we buy into this story that I'm a mother, so now I can't shine my light or feel my body, or like, oh, I couldn't do that, I'm a mother now. So there is this reconnection to be had. And what's awesome, what I love is that can be reconnected at any age. I'm 42. I have clients that are in their 50s. We never lose our connection to our femininity. We just have to reconnect it, right? Like replug it back in and start to let go of some of these ideas about what it's supposed to look like to be a mama. right? Like what it's supposed to look like to stay in community with other mothers, what it's supposed to look like so that we don't outshine, so that other people don't feel bad. All that has to get disentangled and recircuited in our brain wiring so that we have the audacity to be awesome in our lives. Like we have the audacity to have great marriages. We have the audacity to have great sex lives. We have the audacity to have awesome relationships with our kids. We have the audacity to put our work out in the world in a way that is letting it be seen, and we're thriving, and yeah, fuck, we're making money. You know, like all of it has to come out of this old idea that we're supposed to just be like everybody else, you know?
It's safe,
Yeah.
right? You don't want the one that's the black sheep.
It is so ingrained in our DNA. I mean, think about it. You know, we were cave women not that long ago. And to be excommunicated or ostracized from the group of women would mean death, not only for us, but for our children. And so this idea of breaking away from the pack, it's scary at a cellular genetic DNA level. It is scary as hell. Because really, Gervais, we are the first generation of women that can have this conversation. You know, like even for our moms, there wasn't technology that allowed you to reach the masses from your own living room. There wasn't the freedom. You know, my mom had to get her dad to co-sign on her first mortgage. As a woman, a single woman who'd gotten divorced, she couldn't even get a loan without a man co-signing. Wow. That's how new this conversation is. And so of course it's uncomfortable.
It feels like a big responsibility, you know, because I know that, I mean, I guess it depends on the circles that you run in. And, you know, in like the boss school circles, this is like a normal conversation. But for my daily life, this is a radical concept.
Yes.
And sometimes I feel like I want to protect the women that I love because I don't want to hurt them and make them think that all of their hard work of mothering is for nothing. But it's more like I just want to set them free from this preconceived idea of what being a mom is, because there are so many preconceived ideas about time for yourself, anything for yourself, and like you said, like sex and marriage and relationships and career, and that's where all the guilt comes in, and it's just shackles. And you don't realize it, but it really is, and it's not necessary. At the end of the day, you know, why I do what I do is for my daughter, because I don't want her to grow up like that. Like,
I know.
I want her to
be. You have to have that conversation. Like, is the life I'm living the life that I would want for my children? And if not, what can you do to move towards the life that you would want for them? Because children do as we do, not as we say. Right? We can have all the dreams for them in the world, and yet their environment is the most impactful and powerful delineator of what's possible for them in the future. This is proven, right? This is scientific and research based. It's not woo-woo namby-pamby. Like, it really is the deal. So, you know, and it doesn't need to look crazy. The thing that I'll tell you is, you know, I live in New Hampshire in a pretty small community where, you know, most moms drive their kids to soccer, and, you know, and what I notice is I've just focused on living my life, right? Like, I'm just going to live my life, and I'm going to do these things, and it's certainly it's made people uncomfortable, right? Like, or need to judge it because it's different. And what I notice now, 6 years later, is getting quiet messages from women who've been watching, or I remember I wrote a really transparent post about me and my husband a couple of summers ago, and a woman from our school that I thought had been super judgy because she was just quiet, and it just, you know, I could feel like you can feel it, right? Like the batteries that like you put together. And she called me bawling, thanking me. You know, she's like, I thought your life was so perfect and you had it all together. And, you know, and so, you know, what I would say is focus on you. right? Like we can't save anybody. We can only live our truth. We can only be in what we know it works for us. And what I've experienced is that quietly creates a ripple effect that we didn't even have to try.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ripple effect.
Oh, it's huge.
The biggest thing, and I also love what you said in that example, because that's like the Me Too, right? That's the thing in my group virtual coaching program, the Reclaim You. It's all about, like I tell them from day one, if you hear a woman talking on the phone, in our calls or posts in the group and says something about maybe her marriage, like I'm experiencing or I'm feeling unappreciated or I da da da, and you can relate and you're in this safe space, the biggest gift you can give that woman is a Me Too. Because we have this, photoshopped version of reality, and everybody, I mean, I do it, like I'll post, I'm like, I'm not gonna post a picture of me looking like crap on my Instagram. Like, why would I do that? I'm still human, right?
Yeah.
But what I try to do is like post the picture that I like and then post honestly what was happening underneath it, because I mean, because the filter, like the lens through which we're seeing life right now, it is not realistic, right? Like social media is not really real. So a lot of people are walking around with all of this like heavy resentment of like, well, her life is perfect, so my life sucks.
Yeah.
Because if her life is perfect, then my life must suck, right? It's like this either or scenario, and it's like my biggest impetus, like when I started my business, was I want to talk about the stuff that people aren't talking about, and I want to show people that you can be shiny and happy and human at the same time, right? Like you can be like, super, I'm an extrovert, I love partying and like socializing, and I also struggle with depression and have had super come to Jesus moments of my own. And I think the best I can do is just share it all.
Yeah.
Because it's never either or. It's,
I mean, here's
all.
the thing, that I've come to see is that every experience has value, right? Like negative emotions have value, anger has value, failure has tremendous value. Oh my God, like my failures as an entrepreneur have been far more valuable than my successes. And yet most people live their life like in this little tiny box because they don't want to experience failure, or they don't want to experience negativity, or they don't want to get hurt, or they don't want to get sad. And the problem is that limits the here too, right? And so it's all in balance. And the more joy we feel, the more rage, or the more sadness, or the more, like this is a life of this, but what we need to stop doing is judging the down, and actually just like appreciating and enjoying the human experience of loss, or of failure, or of that. And then when we allow ourselves to feel that fully and process it, then we rebound so much more quickly, and life knows that we can get like all the way out here, right? So I think and I've become a deeply spiritual person. I'm like obsessed with A Course in Miracles, and I really truly believe that we are here having this experience as divine souls to like experience all of it. And so why keep yourself in this box? Like, you're so safe, you're so loved, life is so abundant, like you can't lose, so go for it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Break the box.
Yeah, like it's just it's there's so much goodness to experience even in the shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you have to take some risks, or do some things that feel traditionally unsafe.
Yeah.
To experience the joy, right? I mean, even I always say that pregnancy alone is the biggest mind fuck of all time.
Totally.
Because I mean, you have to literally like psych yourself up for like 9 months to a year of sacrifice.
Yeah, like
right?
Your body is no longer yours.
Yeah, your body's no longer yours.
And you're crazy.
You turn insane. I mean, there's like a lot that happens there. Yeah. And we don't even think twice about it. It's like, well, you're doing it for the kid. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm doing it because I know the goodness on the other side, but I think it's such a nice parallel for life in general. Like, I'm going through this like war zone, this year of
Right.
sacrifice and struggle and pain,
That's
honestly.
been a lifetime of
And
love.
because I want the explosive joy on the other side, that I'm so glad that I have done it once, because now I know, like, oh my gosh, like,
Mm,
having a daughter has given me so much
yeah,
joy, and my heart grew like 5 sizes. And
I
but
know.
that parallel for life in general, it's not just pregnancy. It's
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it really is all of it. I couldn't ask for a better playground to be living this life on, than being in this conversation.
mm, yeah. I feel like I could talk about this with you
I
for
know it's totally my favorite topic. Like,
it's
like I know I'm a like online marketing expert, but whenever people ask me to talk about, I mean, my first, it's funny because the first successful business that I had the business first, but it was totally not successful, like money pit. My first successful business was training parenting coaches, and
Oh,
really helping it suited my need, right? Like I needed to learn how to be an effective communication, and I knew that the punishment and consequences route was not for us here in this family. And so, it's always been my passion, is how do we evolve parenting and how do we evolve the role of motherhood so that everyone's really becoming more emotionally intelligent and able to navigate the ups and downs of life, and aren't living in fear and aren't living in, oh my God, someone might judge me and then I'll die. Like, people will judge you and you will still live. I am the like walking proof.
I love that.
I know, my coach is so great. She's like, honey, it's none of your business what they think about you. Like, fuck it.
Yeah, so true. It's so true, and it can consume you. It really can, and it
Yeah.
changes nothing.
It changes
Like,
nothing. Well, then this is what happens: is nothing. Right? You're literally like locked in this box of like, I can't move, I can't make a move because people might think, or this person will say, or and it's just like, really, like, who cares?
yeah, yeah,
I long to get to this place. I'm not there yet. I really do long to get to a place where I don't care what anyone thinks about me.
yeah.
There's such freedom in that.
I have this thing about making other people proud, and
Mm-hmm.
that is like a deep rooted childhood
Right?
that I've got.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel the same way. I'm like, it always comes back with me and my coach. It's like, can you be proud of yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of seeking that external validation all the time, of
Exactly.
having other people pat you on the back and say, we're proud of you, what if you just gave that to yourself and you were just
Yeah,
proud of yourself? I'm
exactly.
like,
That's crazy. Yeah, you can't. I mean, here's the other thing that I know as a coach: you cannot get something outside of you that you don't have within yourself. And so,
mm,
if you are not loving your oogie parts, if you have disenfranchised aspects of yourself, like, oh, that's the bad part of me, or that I don't want anyone to know about this part of me, like, until you can love those people fully, you will never be loved or experience love fully. And there's this amazing thing that happens when you break through that and you start like pulling all these pieces of yourself back into your heart, and like healing that at the deepest core level. The amount of love and abundance and impact that you have access to, it's unparalleled.
mm,
But it starts here.
right. That concept, you're always held. You always have enough love in any moment. You can give
Mm-hmm.
it to yourself. Um, so good. So juicy. Okay. So I think to close, maybe talking to the mother
Mm-hmm.
who has dimmed her light a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and is ruled by these fears that we're talking about, the self doubt and the belief that um, what's good for her kids is the only thing that matters, right? Like, trying to always seek that validation that she's a good mother because her kids tell her so, because she made the bed, because that's selflessness. That's a good way to say it. Like, the selflessness, right? And the sacrifice. That is what defines her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a good person because I'm selfless.
Yeah.
Um, and she's realizing subtly that the light is dimming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And probably there's some judging of herself and judging of others that comes along with it. What would you say to her? What is like the first?
What I would encourage, we know, right? Like we know when we're not really happy. So the first
Mhm,
thing to do is to actually just admit it.
mm,
Right? Like, I think oftentimes we run so hard and we keep ourselves so busy and we commit to all these crazy things
yeah.
simply so that we don't have to confront the truth, which is that we're not happy.
Mm,
And if we just keep going and going and overcommitting and taking care of everyone else and making the cupcakes and driving the kids and, self-sacrifice, then we don't actually have to acknowledge the fact that we're not happy. And so what I notice is that there's usually this whisper that starts to creep in of like, this is my life, or I thought it was going to be more than this, or, just this sort of quiet discontent. And what I would recommend when you start to hear that whisper is to just give yourself a warning, right? Set the stage, like clear your calendar, and have an honest assessment of your life, right? Like pen, journal, get it down on paper. Really assess all the key areas of your life, your relationships, your finances, your health, your connection to your own spiritual source, your friendships, and like have yourself a rant,
mhm,
right? Like, when do we even give ourselves permission to tell ourselves honestly what sucks about our life? Like,
mhm,
I hate my husband. My friends are catty, and right? Like, get it all out on paper
mhm.
so that you can see and acknowledge what isn't working. And then from there, it gets a little complicated. And, I love coaching. I am the biggest fan of having a coach because from there, the work, the process, at least from my point of view, is to start to unravel why you're committed to having those things.
Mm,
Right? What's in the struggle for you? What's in the sacrifice for you? There's got to be something, or it wouldn't be showing up in your life. And so we need to start to unravel the threads that do 100% of the time go back to childhood and all our childhood wounds and, all that stuff. We got to
yeah,
like root
the
it out,
crap.
or otherwise we're just, putting band-aids on top of owies, and we got to go in and clean the owies.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah.
Such good advice. It's like feel your feelings. Like put them
Yeah.
out on paper.
What does it say about us and our own self-worth if we're not even worthy of telling the truth to ourselves? You know what I mean? And what I love, like this new normal for me, is I'm so worthy that I get to feel whatever I'm feeling in the moment, even if you don't like it. Like my it was so different this Thanksgiving. I've had some it's been a big year for me personally. And my family was here for Thanksgiving and I was not nice. I was bitchy, I was resentful, and I was wearing it out loud. And I was like, oh, that feels so good. Like, because my whole life I would have been like, yes, I will get you more coffee. Oh, can I take your cup away for you? Oh, let me make the whole meal with no one helping me. And I'm going to just wear this smile on my face and pretend I'm not pissed off. And this year I was like pissed off, and it was so good. It was so healthy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Feel those feelings.
Right?
Feel your feelings. I love it.
Get the
I love
crap
it.
out of my kitchen.
Yeah, because really, if you're doing that, it's just to make them comfortable as you're uncomfortably,
Exactly.
whatever, like washing all the dishes by
And
yourself.
here's the thing, like just tying this back to the beginning of talking about why this is so awesome for your kids. Like, they get to see that it's okay for them to have all their feelings,
Hmm.
and they get to, right, like when my daughter, like yesterday my daughter did something that really made me angry. She acted like she acted really selfishly in a way that actually impacted her, right? Like she wasn't able to have food for, like, we're in the Nutcracker this week, we both do every year. And so it's so fun. Like, it's our favorite. We get to be in the Nutcracker, and I'm the naughty maid, and she's a Polichinelle, and we like get all in our costumes, and it's like the best, right? but she showed up with food that it was impossible for her to eat. And, I'd been really clear. And I was like, Charlotte, I'm really angry right now. Like, I'm angry because you don't have dinner. I'm angry because that makes me feel like I'm not able to care for you as a mother. And you know what? So by me expressing that with her, she's able to mature. She's able to see, like, oh, I made a bad choice, right? And and the reason she made a bad choice is because she's like, can be a snoot about food. And, she came with like duck soup to the thing. Like, what are you doing? Right? You're going to slurp the noodles in your Polly Chanel costume? And it sounds so silly, but here's the thing. If I had coddled her, she wouldn't have the opportunity to grow and expand and have more personal responsibility and take responsibility for her actions and think through what needs to happen to get fed. And, so it's just like we're limiting the humans around us, their growth, their opportunity to expand when we make it all perfect and okay for everybody.
Right. Yeah, because we want to protect our kids, I think. Yeah. We just think that that's the answer. It's like, you don't have to feel any shame or embarrassment or fear.
Any negative feeling ever.
Anything. And honestly, that's where all of the growth is. And real life isn't like that.
No, because then what's going to happen? They're going to get to college and they're going to be like, how do I make my bed? How do I wash my clothes? Exactly. How do I make decisions about food? How do I take and then they get a job. Like, we have to grow up adults. Mm-hmm. And that can start really super young when we're in authentic communication.
Such good stuff. Thank you so much. I feel like, honestly, we could literally talk about this.
I know. I'm like, we should just do this all the time.
2 more hours.
So fun.
Get a glass of wine. We'll be good to go. It's a little early, but maybe later. But I feel like that's a really
My last interview with Sarah Davidson, we did that. We drank wine the whole time. It was so fun. And bringing these conversations to light. I'm just so glad.
Yeah, I'm so glad to know you. And let's do this again.
Yeah, anytime, sister.
All right.
All right, everyone.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.